of the court case where we have recently won as part of a national challenge to a couple of the tobacco companies for contraband tobacco. We've won a settlement of $12.4 million. I had asked the minister recently about that and whether the money had been received. And as you know, Mr. Speaker, that came because of a case that goes back many years, which involved the illegal sale of tobacco, and as a result, we were compensated. That money is needed in the coffers of the province to improve the health of Nova Scotians, to be put back into programs, and I had said specifically into tobacco cessation programs. We certainly would like to see those beefed up, but we've had good success with those, and we know that there are funds in health promotion and in other areas that could certainly benefit. I do feel when it comes from a source like tobacco, it is good to be able to put it back into those programs that relate to health. But, Mr. Speaker, I think that these amendments to the Revenue Act actually seem to strengthen the position of the province in terms of collecting and ensuring that funds are brought back into the public purse when they should be, and that people cannot ignore fines and charges against them. And for that reason, I certainly would like to support this going forward, and we're interested to see these amendments. Often, Mr. Speaker, what we see here are small amendments, but they can have some significant impacts. And I appreciate the minister bringing them forward, and we look forward to this going to law amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. The honourable member for Argyle.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And seeing that our day is getting a little on, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that we do support the movement of this bill. We know that there are many folks that seem to shirk their responsibility when it comes to paying their fines. This is one more mechanism in which we can sort of force their card hand, if you want to put it that way. You know, illegal tobacco in this province continues to be a problem, especially as we're looking at the higher taxes that we're seeing on a carton of smokes. But of course, the reason for that is because we need to curb the usage of tobacco and tobacco products in our province to make sure that we try to keep it as healthy as we possibly can. Mr. Speaker, the only thing I would say is that we need to have more bills like this one come forward, looking at you know, the benefits that this has been for maintenance enforcement. For example, where once people come to renew that they are shut down at that point. We can look at other places, whether it be other fines that are happening in this province, that we should look at expanding this one as well. So as far as this goes, our caucus does support this bill moving forward in this legislature. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The honourable member for Kingswest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and pleased to join the debate and make a few comments on this bill, Bill 51. This, in fact, is already in practice, at least in Ontario and Manitoba, and again, I think we will find it effective here in Nova Scotia. We know this has become a very, very significant problem in our province. In fact, now there isn't a month goes by that we don't hear of some discovery of illegal tobacco products in our province. So, if this can become again another tool, not necessarily a panacea, but another tool that we can effectively deter this illegal activity, and especially as it relates to loss of driver's license. If these fines are not dealt with, that's again, as we know, one of the effective mechanisms when people cannot drive. So the removal of license here in association with fines, I think, has the potential to be very effective. In fact, a very powerful tool, Mr. Speaker. So I think this comes at a good time. And applaud the minister for bringing it forward, because, as I said in my initial remark, you know, this is not, you know, a sometimes problem in our province. In fact, it's a growing problem indeed. And so we want to see this bill move to law amendments, and we'll support it at this stage, and we look forward to hearing from the public as this moves to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. If I recognize the Honourable the Minister, will be closed debate on Bill number 51. The Honourable the Minister of Service Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for the comments from the members. I would like to make a comment on the members' comments about a month not going by that you hear in the news about seizures. I would like to thank the staff and our compliance officers with Service Nova Scotia and also the RCMP for being so diligent around this, and they need to be commended for their work. I also want to thank staff for bringing this forward and doing the good work that they're doing on behalf of Nova Scotians. So again, thank you for your comments. I appreciate them. And with that, I close the second reading of the Bill 51 Revenue Act. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is for second reading on Bill number 51. Is the House ready for the question? Question has been called. Would all those in favour of the motion please say aye? All those against? Motion carried.
Bill 51, title and act amend Chapter 17 of the Acts of 1995-96, the Revenue Act.
Order that this bill be referred to the Committee on Law Amendments. The Honourable the Minister of Economic and Rural Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today during question period, I was asked two questions. One was referring to terms and conditions related to Northern Pulp, and I had mentioned that I would make every effort to table something, which I would like to table that document now. Also, Mr. Speaker, I was also asked a question related to the Student Skills Development Program. What I have, Mr. Speaker, are the 2009 records. The 2010 records are not complete, and I will say that those records are on the website. They will be on the website in their entirety when they are completed. So I'd like to table that as well.
Thank you. The information is tabled. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that concludes the government's business for today. We appreciate the cooperation of all members from all sides in getting through some substantive work today. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I do ask that the House do now rise to meet at the hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. when, after the daily routine, the order of business will be calling public bills for second reading, and will be Bill number 52 and Bill 53. So I wish you to now rise, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The motion before the House is for the House to now rise and meet again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Is the House ready for the question? Question has been called. All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Those against, motion carried. The House stands adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. We have now arrived at the moment of interruption. The adjournment debate was announced and chosen earlier and won by the honourable member from Cape Breton South. The adjournment debate is the following. Therefore, it be resolved the NDP government make agriculture a priority for the province of Nova Scotia. The chair now recognizes the honourable member for Digby Annapolis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to stand in my place today and speak on the resolution that NDP put forward concerning aquaculture in this province. And Mr. Speaker, it's all about fish, I guess the whole thing is. And but what else it's about is more wealth for this province. Mr. Speaker, this government, I believe, is scrambling to find ways to find more wealth, and that's a great thing because we do need more wealth in this province. Mr. Speaker, the coastal communities of this province are slowly going downhill because of the traditional fishery that created the wealth for this, not only this province, but this entire country. And I believe we can find a way to bring wealth back to our coastal communities and also this entire province. Mr. Speaker, this government right now is looking at royalties on oil, if they could find more oil off our province. which I don't believe would work too well, because if they do go drill on oil or drill on Georges for oil, I don't believe too much wealth will be coming to this province, because any work that's done on Georges Bank for oil will be done out of the United States because of its proximity to that area. So what it would do for Nova Scotia would only be maybe a small royalty because it's on our grounds. But Mr. Speaker, we need to look at growing fish in this province. Our traditional fishery has gone downhill. We still have a wonderful ground fishery, and there'll always be a ground fishery, especially on the Georges Bank area. But the inland waters, or inshore fisheries, have diminished a lot over the years. And I won't get into the reason for that, but we probably all know that, and I know the Minister of Fisheries knows why our inshore fisheries is down, because we have 8 million seals in there that we have to feed daily. And if you figure that up, it's more fish than the Georges Bank can produce. So, and anybody who can't figure that needs a new calculator. So, but I won't get into that issue. I want to get into growing some fish. And Mr. Speaker, we have over 7,000 kilometers of coastline around this province. 7,000 kilometers. And I believe with the demand of fish there's going to be in the next 10 to 20 years on this planet, we better start looking at growing some food, because the demand is going to grow greater and greater and greater every year. And fish is one of the things that's going to be in the greatest demand, because medical people all over this world, doctors say eat fish. Even my own doctor tells me to go buy and eat more fish. So when you have to tell a fisherman, when you have to, and sardines, a beautiful, beautiful source of protein, omega-3, they're good for you. I eat my 2 cans every day. It's all I need. And I'm staying healthy. I've lost a little weight, too, doing it. I feel better now than I did 20 years ago, and I believe the sardines are doing it. So maybe not all sardines, but a lot of it. But here in Canada, listen, we grow 100,000 ton of fish a year, and all of Canada, as huge as this country is and all the coasts it has, and 3 coasts, the east, west, and north, and all we grow is 100,000 ton of fish a year. New Brunswick grows 25,000 ton of those. In Nova Scotia, we grow 25,000 ton. That's all we grow here in this province. If we could up that and grow the 100,000 ton of fish around this province and its 7,000 kilometers of shoreline, and we need to pick the places out that we can really grow them in an environmentally friendly way. You can't grow fish everywhere, but you can grow them in a lot of places where there's good flush, and we know where they all are. So if we could grow 100,000 ton of fish a year, and that's not a lot, 'cause that's all this country grows. Chile, I'll get into in a minute, grows 600,000 ton, with not a lot more coastline than we've got. A third world country, mind you, growing 600,000 ton a year. And they got ahead of themselves so fast that they've got to stop and take a look at themselves now to see what they've done wrong, because they were ahead of their time. But if we could grow 100,000 ton of fish around these coastlines in Nova Scotia and process those fish in the communities that they're grown, we could put 10,000 people to work around our coast. We have the facilities, we have the know-how. Everyone that lives around the coast knows how to deal with fish. They've done it for generations. 400 years we've dealt with fish around the coast of this province. The only thing, our inshore fishery, like I said earlier, is gone down. So it's diminishing. We're looking at closing schools. We're looking at closing hospitals. We can't get our roads paved. And we sit here and wonder why. We need to find the wealth back into the coastal communities of this province. And it's fish. That's how it started. 100 years ago, when Alberta shot their buffalo all off, well, what are we going to do for meat? Well, we're going to grow cattle. It's just common sense. When something disappears, you have to replace it. So they decide to grow cattle. I mean, I had a lovely steak last night with some of the boys. I mean, it's good. I mean, I don't eat sardines steady, but I have a nice steak now and then. And I'm not sure where it come from. I hope it came from local, but 10 chances out of 1 came from Alberta, because probably the biggest beef producers in the world, other than Argentina. But that's what they done. They went to growing cattle, and it's a great part of their livelihood in Alberta, other than, well, we won't get back into oil because we're trying to wean the world off of oil, but we're trying, and on the other hand, we're trying to get people to eat more fish. So what do? Go after oil on Georges, kill the wild fishery off, or do we grow more fish along with Georges? Common sense tells me we got to grow more fish. And if we could grow the 600,000 ton that Chile grows, and I think we could in an environmentally friendly way. We have the veterinarians here. I mean, Chile was just starting to get veterinarians online here 2 or 3 years ago after 20 years of growing them. They never even had a veterinarian there. They were way ahead of themselves. But if we could put 600,000 ton of fish grown in this province, we could put 54,000 people to work in our coastal communities. 54,000. The minister said the other night in the estimates, what's the biggest income of this province? It's not oil. It's people, personal income taxes. So figure that out, Mr. Minister of Finance. 54,000 more people to work around the coastal communities of this province, and good paying jobs in aquaculture. You know, it's all, I mean, I know the boys down home making $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 a year, the few that are at it in the aquaculture. So figure that out by 50,000 people in our coastal communities. So Mr. Speaker, it's a common sense thing that we get back to what built this province and what built this country. We traded off fish back in the 40s to foreign countries so they would buy the wares of central Canada. We wonder what happened to our fishery. I mean, it was the fish of Atlantic Canada that built us. And it'll be the fish that we grow. The fish that we grow in the future will build us back. We can be one of the most wealthiest provinces of this country because the demand is going to be there for that food. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll take my place. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I welcome the opportunity to have this debate here with my colleagues across the way. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to stand here tonight in the House to speak about aquaculture in Nova Scotia. This government recognizes the important economic contribution that all our aquaculture operations make to our province. We believe that the tremendous potential of the Nova Scotia aquaculture industry to be a leader in a sustainable economic growth, in environmental management, in research and development. Nova Scotia must invest whatever it can to maintain its special competitive advantages, Mr. Speaker. Few other jurisdictions in the world can compete with our 13,300 kilometers of coastline, and aquaculture capitalizes on Nova Scotia's wealth in the high-quality freshwater and saltwater resources. The markets for our farm fish are strong and expected to remain so in the foreseeable future. In fact, without aquaculture, the world will face serious seafood shortages. Aquaculture now supplies 50% of the world's food fish. This is expected to reach 60% by 2020. The consumers around the world are demanding fish because it is a healthy food source for their diets. Farm seafoods includes all shellfish and finfish species, provides natural sources of essential nutrients such as omega-3 fatty acids. And the world market for seafoods looks promising well into the future as wild fisheries struggle to keep pace with a strong demand for healthy and delicious seafood. In fact, according to the FAO, without aquaculture, the world will face a seafood shortage of 50 to 80 million tons by 2030. A major opportunity exists now for our province to benefit from aquaculture boom. British Columbia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island has limited ability to accommodate future expansions and successful agriculture companies in Atlantic Canada are currently looking for more sites in Nova Scotia. We believe in the ability of this industry to provide many more high-quality, sustainable jobs in rural Nova Scotia. In fact, given the very positive conditions for expansions that I've just noted, agriculture industry in this province is poised for a greater success. Mr. Speaker, we also believe in the ability of the industry to provide many more high-quality, sustainable jobs in rural Nova Scotia. This is an exciting time for agriculturalists in Nova Scotia. With a variety of coastlines and many different coastal conditions, we are fortunate to be growing several fish and seafood species, from Atlantic salmon, agriculture, to mussel culture. Agriculture is growing industry in all our coastlines in many of our communities. We are certainly growing trout on the South Shore, mussels in Cape Breton, and along the eastern shore, and oysters from Yarmouth to Cape Breton. The industry touches inland communities as well, Mr. Speaker. Many of the salmon and trout hatcheries are employed Nova Scotians in communities such as DeBert, Chance Harbour, and Big Falls. Arctic char facilities on the Millbrook Band site is undergoing expansion as I speak. I am very pleased that in my community of Shelburne, the salmon and trout farms are providing year-round jobs to residents and their families right in this area. In Windsor, the area we are looking to the fish harvest for the first harvest this year. The state-of-the-art facility, recirculating facility, is growing European seafood bass and also striped bass from the Stewiacke River. Mr. Speaker, agriculture is more than just fish. It is also very much about people. And I invite my critics, who is going to speak tonight, I invite them out to tour with me this summer. I know that I'll have an opportunity to visit a number of agricultural sites, so the invitation goes out, and I can see that we send a clear message, Mr. Speaker, that we have a united and cooperative government here, that all parties support agriculture, so I invite them out for a little tour of some of our sites this summer to join me. Mr. Speaker, agriculture feeds companies in Truro, employs over 50 people, and services salmon and trout farms in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Labrador, and New Brunswick. The trucking industry here moves agriculture, fish, gear, and equipment. This industry needs highly skilled workers to service agriculture. Our Nova Scotia Agriculture College does research for the industry, offers degree of granting programs in agriculture, and is a base for aquamarine health laboratories. Nova Scotia has a very credible and well-recognized environmental monitoring program which has operated hands-on. After 7 years of extensive sampling involving all active marine sites, the evidence conclusively shows that most agricultural operations have little or no measurable impacts on ocean bottom. Furthermore, the evidence showed that there has been no significant environmental impact beyond the least boundaries of any agricultural site in Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, Nova Scotia knows and understands the fish business very well. We have excelled in markets around the world, especially in eastern United States, and for our commercial fisheries, and this puts us in a very desirable position to capitalize on the growing industry. We are very much closer to the markets than the larger salmon producers in Norway, Scotland, and Chile, for example. And agriculture offers a tremendous opportunity to expand our relatively new resource-based industry. Balancing sound agriculture practices and knowledge and insight from the traditional fisheries allows the use of our generations of expertise. And Mr. Speaker, again, I want to point out that the member opposite from Digby, Annapolis, I was basically moved several days ago, weeks ago, when the member from Digby-Annapolis put forward a resolution talking about the support of growing agriculture. And I felt at the time, and this is where that invitation comes out, that I think all parties, if the other party, the PC party would do that, that would show a clear majority. And again, the invitation is there for my critics to join me this summer, to go on a tour of some of these sites, and I think that would send out the right message, a clear message, that all parties in Nova Scotia are in support of agriculture, and to me that is a very strong visual effect. And I know the member opposite from Digby-Annapolis will assure me that the visual effect that I seen in Chile when I seen a loaded vessel with salmon, and I haven't seen that since the late 70s, that is also a very strong visual. And when you go there and see that vessel tie up and you see 300 people working in that fish plant, that is a strong visual impact. And I think a clear message would to see that the future of Nova Scotia agriculture is strong, and that we're strong in the future in the hands of our future generation, our young people, especially in rural communities. Again, Mr. Speaker, that the development of agriculture sector can grow our economy and create more jobs in this province, especially in rural coastal communities. We are all becoming leaders in the sustainable agriculture, and this continues success with helps the communities welcome agriculture as a valid participant in our coastal zones. Together, and I emphasize together, we can continue to build agriculture in Nova Scotia and provide for the future growth and our opportunities. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The honourable member for Argyle.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and very happy to stand and speak to aquaculture in our province. And to the member for Shelburne, the Minister of Fisheries, I can say that I support aquaculture, and I can say that our caucus supports aquaculture, and be very happy to hop on the bus with you and be able to try around the province and see aquaculture. Now, I'm not the aquaculture and fisheries critic, but I'm sure one of us will be there with you. I have had the opportunity on a number of occasions to visit the aquaculture sites in our province, to see the diversity of this production across our province. Whether it's in Southwest, looking at the finfish aquaculture that's happening, the growing of steelhead trout. Of course, I have a good friend of mine, married to a cousin of mine, Sherman D'Entremont, who does the one down. I forget exactly. I think it's in the minister's riding there somewhere, or is it just past into Queens? It's almost, yeah, Port Mattoon, sort of in that area. You know, and then what they've done over the number of years is what we had. And here, let me go back a few years. Technology starts in Eastern Canada. It seems we're wonderful with the science, with of course Dalhousie University, with bio, with other organizations like that develop a fishery, develop an aquaculture, okay? And being Nova Scotians, we like helping people. We love to help people. I mean, that's sort of, you know, ingrained in who we are. So who did we help? Well, we helped the folks in New Brunswick to start. And our technology got moved in New Brunswick. I'm getting there. Mr. Speaker, and, you know, in a bit of time, it seemed like New Brunswick was doing a little better than we were. All right. Well, we didn't stop there. We had a number of people from Pubnico, actually, that went down to Chile to bring our technology to Chile. How many tons were you saying? I mean, it's like 600,000 tons of aquaculture product being developed in Chile. Where's that technology from, Mr. Speaker? It's from here, right here. Where's the fish from? It's actually a strain of salmon from, I think it's from the lower St. John River, but it is from Atlantic Canada. Now, if that's not good enough, Mr. Speaker, being the good Nova Scotians that we are, and I'm not mad at this, I mean, because that's, again, it's what we're supposed to do as citizens and as Nova Scotians, but But we provided our technology to Norway and Scotland, who are known as sort of the heavyweights of aquaculture in the world. All our technology, Mr. Speaker. And they're being able to take that technology and move leaps and bounds beyond where our aquaculture industry is today. So why did that happen, Mr. Speaker? Well, of course, we're Nova Scotians, but secondly is because our industry has been difficult. Whether it's been the cold waters off of Digby Neck and not being certain what happens to the fish when of course the ice particles comes through and there's a big freeze, and there had been a number of areas that have been lost. Winter chill, thank you very much. It's been always very difficult in this province to get an aquaculture lease, or at least to maintain it. Or it's been extremely difficult to take one of those leases and expand them. We continue to put red tape in front of it. We continue to really fall to the pressure of our communities. And Mr. Speaker, we are politicians. We are here to represent the needs of our communities. But we have stood in the way of the true development of the aquaculture industry in Nova Scotia. You know, if we take Port Mattoon, for example, I mean, the finfish site there had asked for an expansion. And it set off 2 years or 3 years of study and uncertainty in that Port Mattoon area. You know, ultimately, you should have just done it, or at least had the decency enough to tell the organization, the company that was putting it, that, sorry, you can't do it, instead of drawing those communities through thick and thin. And Mr. Speaker, I can say, you know, I was on the tail end of that one. It was brought forward and it was still, you know, trying to be dealt with by our government. But once the NIMBY piece hits, once the not in my backyard piece hits, it's very difficult to pull yourself out of it. And that's where we've gotten stuck over the years. What we need to have is a very progressive aquaculture policy, maybe some pre-work done, you know, before we take sites, you know, really go around and take an inventory of the sites that we do have, you know, and then be able to present those to aquaculturalists and say, here's some safe places you can go and expand our system, rather than them coming to us and saying, well, here's some coordinates of a spot that I like to put down a trap, or here's the place where I want to put down a cage. You know, we need to be a little more progressive on that, being able to provide them with the information that they need. And that will help our finfish, of course. Now, Mr. Speaker, we do have a very good oyster production. If I look at Nolan Dion and the oystermen in Lower Eelbrook, phenomenal market right across Canada, doing very, very well. But of course, he's getting to a point where he sells all his products. Anything he can grow, he's able to get rid of. And Mr. Speaker, he's buying it from other parts in the province that maybe don't have the markets today. You know, they're doing phenomenally well. You know, there was trials on scallops. There was trials on mussels. Mussels still today do quite well. I know the member for Victoria in St. Anne's Bay. I remember that when I was the minister that eventually bit the bullet and said, go and do it. And you know what, Mr. Speaker, what happens there today is a wonderful organization that employs, I forget how many people, but it's probably 20 to 30 if I remember correctly. And, you know, all those worries are not there, because they are providing employment in the area, and it's not the big old monster that was purported to be. Mr. Speaker, aquaculture, I think, is the future of fish production in our world. If we look at what's happening on some of our major banks, the loss of wild stocks, that we're going to have to supplement that in some way. You know, I did get to visit Norway. I did see their aquaculture industry. It is phenomenal, Mr. Speaker. Excuse me. It is something to behold. And they've gone beyond the salmon side. They're growing cod. They're growing other wild stocks in order to provide those kinds of products to market. And a matter of fact, the cod technology is from Newfoundland. So again, Maritimers, being the good people they are, providing their technology around the world. Mr. Speaker, we need to work with big companies like Cook's Aquaculture to help them expand in Nova Scotia. Help the little guy that wants to start off as an aquaculturalist and has that training to be able to provide that kind of employment in our areas. They're biologists. They're incredible people to bring to our constituencies. We need to work with the Aquaculture Association of Nova Scotia. Who better to advocate for that, their own industry, than the industry itself? And Mr. Speaker, every once in a while, once a year, we have them come visit this assembly and provide us with aquaculture products. And I hope that they come again. But Mr. Speaker, if I can finish off, it is simply to say that we're here to support the Minister of Fisheries on that. And again, whether it's me or our critic, the member for Gay Breton West, we'll be along for the ride in supporting him on that. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. The time allocated for debate on the late show resolution has now expired. I want to thank all the honored members for having taken part in tonight's late show. The motion for adjournment was made earlier. The House now stands adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.